good? We're back in this thing. Today we're going to be going over a few unique ways we can use this warp background to make effects and transitions. I kind of made a sequence inspired from this Dino Blunt music video. I think it's really fire and it's kind of the sauce, so tap in. We got a really cool effect today. If you're new here, what's good? My name is Brian. I make music video tutorials here on YouTube, and if you're not already subscribed, go ahead and do it. It's free. We're on the road to 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I upload 3 times a week. Also, if you haven't already liked and comment, it really does help push my content out to other people, and it's greatly appreciated. Let's go for 1,000 likes on this video, 100 comments. Also, before we get into the video, if you want to level up your music video editing game, support the channel, and save some time while editing, you can go check my website, briandelmata.com, check out my packs and presets. It's the best way to support the channel. You get some really cool looks in return, and I have a bunch of tutorials already on the packs and presets. I'll have a link to the website down below as well as the tutorial playlists. All right, let's get into the video. All right, so before we get into the video, I'll have the music video link down below as well as Luca. I'm pretty sure he's the one that did this music video. It's kind of hard to tell because they didn't credit him anywhere and it's not in English. I already translated it. It's a little all over the place, but I did some searching and I think this screenshot means that he did the music video. If not, I know you guys are really good at actually finding out who did it. So if I'm wrong, go ahead and let me know in the comments and I'll definitely be sure to credit the editor or director of this music video. All right, so now we're in Premiere. I'm gonna be showing you the sequence that we're gonna be going over. It's kind of just 2 effects mixed together, and I think it looks really clean. There's 2 parts I did. Here, I'll show you. You got that first transition and then this paper transition. I'll go slow so you can see. It's basically just the clip riding out and then the 2 subjects here kind of zooming in and the background getting distorted. That's the way with a little extra sauce and a little extra work. Or this way also looks pretty cool, but it's not as noticeable. You can see the background's a little warped, but it takes a lot less work to do that. So I'm gonna be going over both ways. I'd recommend spending more time and making it look really nice, but I know some people are on time crunches sometimes, and a little simple effect here and there is nice. And then the second effect we're gonna be going over is this transition where the paper rips over and there's also that warp in the background still, kind of combine 2 things that they did in the music video. You can see here it flashes for a few frames, the background's warping, and then it goes back to normal and it plays the clip. So altogether, this is what it looks like. So for the first transition, all you really need is 1 clip, and all you're gonna do is add a freeze frame or screenshot at the end of the clip. So I'm gonna hold Alt and drag up on the clip here, and we can see I have this clip. I'm gonna go to the last frame right here. Go ahead and click add frame hold. It's gonna split the clip, delete that first part, and then you can drag this out as long as you want, and it's gonna be frozen right here. I'm gonna go like 5 frames and then cut it. I'm also gonna drag it down. Now you can see, if you play it, it just freezes at the end. So the way to do it just in Premiere, I'm gonna go ahead and actually hold Alt and duplicate that again. So now there's 2 of the frozen layers here, and then I'm going to go ahead and go to the opacity tool and click the pen tool, and then just pen tool out your subject. The more time you spend on this, the better it's gonna look. And honestly, this is kind of why I don't recommend doing it this faster way, is because the pen tool in Premiere kind of annoying and it's not that good. But if you don't really have much time to get a project done, this might be your best option. Click the eyeball over here so we can just see what we masked out. And you can play with the feather, whatever. It doesn't have to be super perfect. And then go ahead and turn back on that layer. And then if you want to mask out another subject here, I'll actually just do it real quick. It doesn't take too long. Just go ahead and pen tool him out. And now if we turn off that background layer, we have both of the subjects here. And then I would just match the feather settings that you have in the first one. So 17 for our case. And there you are. And now all you really have to do is go to effects, and there's a few ways you can make the background kind of move. I think the easiest way, and probably the best looking way honestly, is turbulence displays. And once you drag that on, you can see you already kind of have the look, but obviously there's like clones of subjects here, so we're just gonna have to tweak some of the settings so it's not doing that. My favorite settings for this personally are bulge, and then keyframe the amount at the beginning to maybe 0, and then keyframe it to the end and make it a little bit more. Obviously, this one you can't really go too crazy with because you start seeing the background behind it, And that's just one of the unfortunate ways of, if you do it in Premiere, you might have to tweak some of the settings. You can kind of finesse it so you can't really tell. And honestly, it's only 5 frames, so it doesn't really matter too much. But the other way, you won't even be able to see the people in the background because we're actually going to be using content aware. I think there's a place for both of them, honestly. And then you could also keyframe the evolution. And then I'm just going to drag the keyframes all the way to the end. You can see when we play that, we just have the background kind of distort a little bit. That's pretty good looking transition. If you want to make it a little bit smoother, maybe go ahead and nest both of those. And then you could keyframe the scale or something just so it has a little bit more movement to it. And then when you go ahead and render that out, you get something that looks like that. And honestly, that's looking pretty smooth. But I'm going to be showing you the way that I would personally do it, and that would be using Photoshop to content aware. You could also, if you had it in After Effects, do it that way. But I think Photoshop is probably better and smoother. I know a lot of people work through Premiere, so all you have to do to get it into Photoshop is go to below your video clip and click this camera button. You can click Control-Shift-E, or if you don't see the camera button here, you can go ahead and go to the button editor and then add it in and then click export. And then you can save it as PNG or JPEG. Those are probably the two that I would use most often. And then go ahead and click OK, and then drag that into Photoshop. This is where it looks a lot better in my opinion. It honestly might even be faster this way. If you go ahead and use the lasso tool, you can go ahead and roughly outline your subject. It doesn't even have to be that good, just kind of close to where it's at. I'd actually recommend kind of going a little bit away from your subject, so like kind of outlining him, and then go ahead and go to fill and then content aware. And most of the time it should do a pretty good job. You can see obviously there's like a little weird look here, but if you were just looking at this really quickly, you wouldn't be able to tell, and it should fix the problem we're having with the people showing behind. And then I'm going to do the same thing for this subject and go to fill, content aware. And for me, that looks really good, so I'm going to go ahead and go to save a copy and then name this background. And then you're just going to need the photo again. And then this time is a little bit more work. I'm going to go ahead and actually take my time and pen tool out the subjects. If you're not familiar with the pen tool, I'd recommend learning it. It's honestly a really, really useful tool. In Photoshop, I really like it. You can go ahead and use other methods to mask out, like lasso tool, quick selection tool, all that stuff, but I'd always recommend the pen tool if you are willing to take the time to do it. Probably going to give you the best result almost all the time. And when you pull off transitions like this and they're really smooth and you can't tell how the person did it because you can't see the subject behind them or whatever, I think it's really worth it. And then once you're done outlining him with the pen tool, right click and go to make selection. And I'm going to feather it like 5 pixels and click Control-J. That's just going to duplicate the layer. And actually 5 pixels is a little bit much here. So I'm going to go back, make selection, and maybe do like 2 pixels. And then click Control-J. And we can see what we're working with here. That looks really good actually for me. And then I'm going to go through and do the inside. If you have something like this, you don't really have to. I just think the little extra effort goes a long way and it looks good. And then I just went ahead and once I made the selection, just click delete on my keyboard to delete the background. And then I'm going to do the same thing for this part right here. And then again, make selection. Make sure you're selected on the background layer and click Control-J. And there we go. We have the 2 subjects masked out. Go to File, save a copy. Make sure it's a PNG and type in subjects or whatever you're going to name it. And then go back into Premiere here. And then go ahead and import both of those into Premiere. And I'm going to drag the background and then the subject here. And I'm going to make it the exact same length, 5 frames each. And now you can see there's a little bit of a shift around the subjects here. Obviously, it's going to change a little bit with the masking, but honestly, it's not even that noticeable. And you can do some things to finesse it. I'll show you in a little bit. And then the first thing I'm going to go to is Turbulence Displace, add it to the background. And now you can go basically as crazy as you want with it, and it's not going to matter because you're not going to see the subject. So I think that's really cool. I'm going to go again with the bulge because I like how that looks. And then go to the end, keyframe the amounts. I'm going to keyframe the evolution. You can keyframe the size, complexity, all this stuff, whatever you think looks best. I'm going to make the amount start off at 0, and maybe keyframe the evolution just a little bit. Now we can see if we play that. That's a lot actually, but I think it looks good. And we can add some extra things to make it look a little smoother. I'm gonna go ahead and highlight all these keyframes, right click on them and go to Bezier. Basically like easy in After Effects. It should just make the motion a little bit smoother. And then since we have the subject masked out, I think it'd be cool to just like scale them in, because like scaling them in isn't gonna do anything to the background, and it just adds a little bit extra layer of depth to it. So you can go ahead and keyframe the scale, but I'm actually gonna use transform effect. That way we can add some shutter speed to it and make it have some motion blur. So I'm gonna keyframe the scale, go to the end, and maybe make it like 110 or whatever. It's all gonna be depending on your clip. But for us, I think that looks pretty good. There's some good movement there. And then you can go to the shutter angle and you can really play with whatever. 180 is gonna look the most natural, but if you want a lot of shutter, you can bring it all the way up to 360. We'll start off with 180 and see how that looks. I'm gonna Bezier the keyframes and then actually add a little bit more motion blur. I'll just bring it all the way up to 360. And in the example I showed you, I did a few other things like add Sapphire Shake just to have them shake a little bit. So I could go ahead and do that. And I think I turned down the amplitude a little bit and maybe the frequency, just so there's a little bit of shake here. And actually make sure to bring that above the transform if you have transform on. That way it doesn't mess it up a little bit. And then I think I'm just going to keyframe the amplitude down a little bit more, just so it's not as noticeable. There's a few other things you can do. Maybe add some drop shadow just to separate it from the background. Maybe you don't want it, maybe you do. Basically, now you can do whatever you want to these clips. These are just ideas that I want to give you guys. And then I'm going to keyframe the opacity at the start from 0 and keyframe it to like 100 at the end. That way it kind of gains some depth as we go throughout the transition. And then to get that look as well, I'm gonna add some Gaussian blur onto the background. And what that's gonna do, nothing right off the start, but then I'm gonna go ahead and click repeat edge pixels, keyframe the blurriness at the beginning to 0, and then go to the end and kind of just make it whatever you think looks good. And now it's going to have a blurrier background. And that way it kind of just adds separation from the subject. And I think that transition looks really clean actually. I like the way that turned out. You can add glow, really whatever to this transition. Now I'm gonna go ahead and transition between these two clips here using the paper assets. So I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate this layer and add a frame hold here. Now this is all the way through, because we're gonna have this playing throughout the background. I'm just gonna move this over to the side for right now, and then I'm gonna choose some freeze frames that we want. You can really take them for wherever in the effect. I'm gonna go here, add a frame hold, move it over to the side. I'm gonna choose like 3, maybe right here, hold Alt, right click, add frame hold, move this over, and then maybe this one right here. And this transition, I like to keep the pictures like 3 frames in total. So I think maybe like a 10-ish frame transition would be pretty cool. To get that, I'm gonna use that 1 frame that we want in the background the whole time. So wherever it transitions to, for our case, it transitions to this clip right here. So this is where it's going to start off. So I'm going to have this freeze frame in the background the whole time, and then just drag that there. That's going to be the base of the transition. So whenever like the paper reveals, this is what's going to be seen in the background. And then I'm just going to choose some screenshots. So here, the first one, I'm going to do like maybe 3 frames. The second one, maybe like 4. And then maybe the last one I'll make 6 frames. So I'm just going to make it a little bit longer actually. So now when you play that, this is what you get. Adds a little bit of jitter to it, and then you can do these cuts to the beat or whatever, so you know it look cool if it was like hidden on the kick or something. But yeah, those are just ideas. So for this part, you're gonna need some kind of paper texture. I'm gonna be using the Ultimate Texture Bundle V2. I'll have the link to the V1 down below. The V2 is actually not out yet. I'm gonna release it at 50,000 subscribers. We're really close, but what I think I'm gonna do is actually make a Patreon where you can get access to the packs and presets early, as well as all the footage to practice on, as well as the project files, so you can like follow along the tutorial, like a special Discord role and like some channels that you guys can talk in, and I'll be popping in there, you know, whenever I'm working on a tutorial or whatever. you know, just kind of chilling. It's all an idea right now, so let me know if that's something you'd be interested in, as well as you get some discount codes on my products. It'd be like probably like 15 bucks. But yeah, let me know if that's something you guys would be interested in. So we're actually gonna be using the rips and folds here, and I'm just gonna find one that I like. Oh, you guys are getting a sneak peek right now. So I went ahead, and for the rips and folds part of the pack, if you're familiar with the V1, a lot of you guys have it. We use this type of paper for the V1, and I think it's really cool. I really do like this, but I was going for a different look, so I went ahead and made 25 of the new ones, and then I know a lot of people liked the original ones, so I think I went ahead and made 26 of those, because there's 51 in total. I think I was supposed to make 50. Oh well. So yeah, you get an extra one, I guess. For this one, let's go ahead and use the newer ones since no one's seen them yet. So I'm just gonna drag black sheet 14 on, right click and scale to frame. Since it's 4K, it's gonna be scaled in a lot because the footage is only 1080p. And then I'm just gonna scale it up so it has something like this, and then go ahead and turn it to screen. And then we can go ahead and drag a different one in. Maybe the black rip one, turn it to screen, right click, scale to frame size, and just move it around how we want. And then I think I'm just gonna use the same one more time here and just move it around a little bit. So now we can see we have this. And that looks pretty cool, but I want to animate it a little bit so the paper kind of rips away, and then we can see that turbulence displays in the background. So I'm gonna go ahead and right click these groups here and nest each one of them. So we'll just name that one 1, that one 2, this one 3. And the reason I'm doing it all in Premiere is I know a lot of times when I use the paper texture bundle and stuff, I do Photoshop. Some people don't like using Photoshop, so I wanted to show a more simplistic way we can go ahead and do something cool in just Premiere. A little bit more control with Photoshop, and you can make it look a little bit more realistic. But for something as simple and as quick as this, you can do something really quick and get a good look. And then I'm just gonna go to Lumetri Color actually here and just tweak the color and tint of the overall nested sequence. Maybe bring out the blacks, and then go to the curves and maybe tweak this a little bit just to give it more of a grungy look. Basically just gives it a little bit of a different look from the actual clip. And then I'm gonna copy the Lumetri Color and paste it onto all of our clips here. And then I'm gonna go ahead and add the crop effect onto the second one. And if you wanted to be really basic with it and make a quick transition, you could just slide the left, right, whatever way you really want it to move over a certain percent. Or if you wanted to, you could use the pen tool, give it a specific crop that you wanted, for example, something like that, and then drag left. You can see you have something like that. And then I'm gonna go ahead and go to the feather, bring that down. And then I'm also going to add a drop shadow on it, just so it looks like it's kind of overlaying the footage. Go to opacity, and I'm just gonna make it something really slight, just so you can barely see it. See if I turn it on and off. Here's with it off, and then here's with it on. I think it just adds a little bit of depth to it. And then I'm gonna go ahead and actually copy that crop to this one, and then just change the mask path to something more over here, and just make sure you drag that to 100% so it goes all the way over. And I'm actually gonna make this angle a little less aggressive here. I just think it looked a little odd having it that much like that. And then I'm actually gonna go ahead and add the tape from the new pack as well onto this, just to give it a little bit more of a little bit more obvious that it's actually paper. And I'm just gonna drag on some of the ones that I think look cool. I did some really cool things with the tape, and I have a bunch of tutorials on how to do these borders and stuff. I have so much planned for this pack, it's actually crazy. I'm really excited to share that with you guys. But right now, let's go ahead and use some of these tapes for this. And then I just scale it to frame size so you can see what that looks like. And I'm gonna scale it down a lot actually. Maybe something like 50. And then if you click on motion here, you should be able to play with it however you want. And I'm just gonna go ahead and put some tape up there in that corner, and then just do the same thing for this one. And then the last one over here. And we have something like that playing. And then for the background, I'm just gonna add turbulence displace to kind of stay with that theme of the warping background. And for this one, I'm actually gonna have it start off warped at the beginning, and then I'm gonna keyframe the amount at the beginning to maybe something like 100. And then I'm gonna use bulge for the displacement type, and then keyframe it to 0 at the end. So it actually goes the first frame, even though you can't see, would have the most amount, and then it has less and less. So it kind of goes back into the normal clip. I think that's a really smooth transition. So then altogether, this is what the transition is going to look like. And then if you wanted to use this throughout your music video, it's actually pretty quick to do once you get the hang of everything, you kind of understand what's going on. That's why I'm a huge fan of these transitions. And it also kind of has a look that I feel like is still really unique in the music video scene. But yeah, if you made it all the way to the end, I really do appreciate you. Thank you very much. If you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, join the Discord, support the channel, cop the pack. If you're interested in the Patreon and want packs and presets early, including the V2 of the paper texture pack, let me know in the comments down below. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got for you guys in this one. Peace.